DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by diehard Florida State fans and boosters, the Lemmix family in Pensacola. So cut them some slack for their Hurricane blend. No green and orange, and it's definitely not all about some random letter in the alphabet. It simply is a blend for those of you who love that strong coffee flavor without bitterness. DeLuna has combined 2 different South American beans with a Hawaiian bean. In fact, the Hurricane blend has won as many ACC titles as the school in Coral Gables. Try it or one of their other 24 blends and get a discount when you use the promo code WARCHANT15. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up? It's Wake Up Warchant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee, DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Use the promo code WARCHANT15, folks. Save yourself some money. Inflation is a mug, but that 15% helps you out over at DeLunaCoffee.com. Pretty sure their price has been staying static because the Lemmixes do what's right by everybody. They're big-time Seminole fans. They're alums. They're boosters. And they make one heck of a cup of coffee if you use their beans. Check out DeLunaCoffee.com. Get a gift for yourself, for your friends, your family, maybe even an enemy. Just extend an olive branch this time of year, right, Corey? Like, I present to you Colombian coffee beans. Let's be friends. That's what you would have done back in the days as a trader coming up. You would have been. I could see you being a big time fur trader in the Great Lakes region of the country back in the day.
I feel like I could talk people into things. I don't know if I want to I don't think I'd have a lot of enemies, though.
Yeah, that's right.
But I feel like I could make people, I could make them think, man, this coffee is going to be the best thing for you.
That's
It's
right.
It's going to change your life, much like you've done for the last, what's it been now with DeLuna and the Lemmixes? A couple years, probably? Year and a half? A year?
Yeah, they rode with us through the I just still can't keep track of time. 2020. What a
I feel
weird
like
time.
they've been with us for a decade now. I mean, I feel like it's been a fun partnership. I feel like they've been in my lives for quite a while now.
Yeah. The Tumblr sitting here on my desk, been in my life for a while too. So again, head to DeLunaCoffee.com. Hit the thumbs up button if you're listening to us on YouTube. Even subscribe to the YouTube channel, 5-star rating and review. We are Wake Up Warchant, again, part of the WarChant.com family. WarChant30, use that promo code. You might want to hop on it because, well, not might, you do want to hop on it because this portal thing, Corey, good gosh, my neck hurts. Just looking at my phone, looking at my laptop, looking at my phone. Just all sorts of goodies out there, man. That great running back from Georgia Tech in the portal.
Yeah.
I think Jamar Gibbs? Not Gibbs. Is it Gibbs?
Yeah.
All right, look
Nailed
at that.
it.
Trust your first instinct, everybody. He's in the portal. Terrence Lewis, 5-star linebacker from Miami Central, who went to Maryland. Guess he had a ACL injury in March. I don't even think he played for Maryland. He's in the portal. We could use some of that. I think there's a linebacker from New Mexico State that had something like 100 tackles this past year, double-digit TFLs. Man, this is such a great, I don't know, I think it's overall a positive. I know maybe I'm in the minority on this one per usual, but, man, especially if you're a program. Here's the thing, man. If you're Alabama and people are taking guys away from you, Pierce Quick is an offensive tackle that's leaving Alabama that Florida State might be going after. Hopefully, I guess. It's an Alabama offensive lineman. We'll take it. But even if you're Alabama and people are trying to come poach your guys, if you're on firm ground, no one's going to really want to leave your program. Unless you're Jermaine Johnson, that's just, golly, thank God that worked out for us. But if you're everybody else, if you're the other 125 teams chasing, hoping, trying to be something fast, this portal really does sort of change everything. So as we sit here and wonder, all right, go from 3 wins to 5 wins to 7 wins, again, man, I'm going to keep my foot on the pedal. Kept my foot on the pedal with Willie. I don't want to wait, and we don't have to wait, really, because of the dynamics of personnel right now with the portal, man. It's exciting, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it real. I'm kind of growing to hate it. I understand it. I don't anybody can do what they want to do, go live your life. But like the kid, TCU signed their highest ever recruit, this 5-star kid. He was the number 1 running back in the country, I think, Zach Evans.
Correct.
Last year.
Attaboy, Corey.
ran for like 700 yards as a freshman.
He's averaged 7 yards per carry 2 years, and he's had 500-yard seasons.
Yeah, best recruit they've ever had, biggest recruit they've ever had. He's in the portal. He's bouncing.
Well, their coach quit.
Well, I know, but then why did the Gibbs kid leave? Just because Tech's terrible? I get it. Those are all good reasons, but it's like, man, how do you ever really build? How can you build if
well, people aren't pouring out of Florida State into the portal because they believe that it's on the right track. I mean, who wants to say?
Yeah, but
Jeff Collins has won 9 games in 3 years.
I'm not even talking about Florida State because, again, Florida State's that's a football program. It's a football power that's down. I'm talking about the middle tier schools of the world.
Who cares about them? They're trying to take away from us,
I don't
Corey.
know. I guess, man. It's like, man. And then you see what's going to happen at Oklahoma, which who cares, man? They bolted the Big 12 for the SEC, left them in the lurch. That's fine. I hope it hurts. I hope it stings, Sooners. But I mean, half their recruits are now going. Some of their players are going to go. And it's just like, man, you just have to recruit these the way it is now. So say Travis Hunter comes to Florida State, has a nice first year. Not great because he's a freshman. He's not going to be a Heisman winner as a freshman. Florida State goes 6-6 again.
Don't listen to him, Travis. Sky's the limit, buddy.
It could be 9-3, buddy. I'm just saying this is a hypothetical. I think they're going to be 10-0 when they get into the last 2 weeks of the season. But do you have to re-recruit Travis Hunter every year he's here to keep him on? Do you like? I saw like Jarvis Brownlee was tweeting out something about staying, and
so
I think
when you got Stephanie in your life, you don't have to do anything anymore with Stephanie. You don't have to do anything to impress her, to keep her her love for you yearning. You just, all right, you signed up for this. You're stuck with me. Deal with it.
The last 4.5 years has been the proof that I'm with her. I've stuck with her through thick and thin, through all the heartaque she's given me. And, buddy, it's been nightly. But I've stuck with her, obviously.
It's sarcasm. He loves her.
Yes,
he loves you, Stephanie.
I do very much. She's the best thing in my life other than my son. And it's not really even close. Well, you're third. Oh. You're probably third, but you're not close to Brady and Stephanie.
Yeah, so I'm like Ohio State or whoever's third behind Georgia and whoever's number 2 right now.
Michigan, yeah. Well, no, you're like Michigan and they're Georgia. Okay. Like you're just not close, but you're still there. You're still top 5, buddy. But it's just like I know that's the reality. That's where we live. That's the now of college football. But it's like, man, you're gonna have to. It's cool to land a recruiting class. But, man, there's no guarantee. Like, if the kid, you might have real plans for, like, say, Lloyd Willis. Just throwing that out there. And I haven't heard anything. I'm sure he's staying. I hope he sticks around. He looks like he has some real potential. What if you bring in another transfer, a tackle, and he's like, you know what, I'm bouncing. It's like, well, you can be patient. Like, in that, I don't know. It's changed the landscape forever about how college football works. And maybe it's for the better. It doesn't seem like you're going to get to have, these senior classes are all going to look like Florida States and Floridas. If you're any good, you're going to go pro. And if you're not very good, you've left to go somewhere else. You haven't put in time to become better, to go from third string to first string. You wonder about, and again, I'm just using Florida State names because you guys know them. But somebody like Shaheem Brown, like we both think he has a chance, right? We saw him. He didn't play at all as a true freshman. Now, is he cool with that? Or is he going to be looking somewhere else because he didn't get to play as a freshman? It's like, well, what did you expect, man? Derek Brooks barely played as a freshman. But it feels like this has kind of changed the way football players think about their careers. They don't seem to have the patience. I'm not faulting them. I might not either. I mean, I might be looking out, okay, well, I can't. This guy's a sophomore. I'm only a freshman. I don't want to be on the bench for the next 2 years. Well, you can't get better and beat them out. And it just seems like it's now the alternative is let's bounce, let's go somewhere else, which is fine. They're allowed to do it. I'm not saying they shouldn't be allowed to do it. It's just this is one of the impacts of it is you don't really have a real sense of who's coming back. Like, again, like I said, Brownlee tweeted out that he was coming back. Cooper tweeted out something. I mean, maybe just tweeted out his love for Florida State, but it was also like, I'm kind of not going anywhere. It's like, where would you go, man? Well, y'all both started every game. Brownlee played every play of the season, and Cooper started the last half of the season. Why would anybody be worried about you leaving? But you got to worry about all of them now. Like TCU, they love that kid. And I know it's a new coach, so it's a different circumstance. The Gibbs kid, I know they were terrible, but I can promise you Jeff Collins was like, man, I know we didn't play well the last part of the season, but we got Gibbs coming back. He's the best running back. Oh, wait, no, he's in the portal. Sorry. That's just how it works now, man. But look, and then it's not that I fault the kids. It's just the reality. It's never going back to the way it was. And I'm a grumpy old man thinking about it.
But hey, there's still high school kids, the old-fashioned way. You're still going to have to do a little bit of that.
You just have to re-recruit them every year.
Well,
you
Foster,
happy here?
You talk about culture. You're the guy that believes in culture more than I do. Not that I do not believe in culture. I just, it's a very fickle thing. So it's hard for me to really fully wrap my arms around it. But, man, create a good culture. Have a really cool campus. Have a really good academic program. Put value in what the education and the networking is going to be at your university. Have these cool football-only facilities. So even if you're not playing, you still feel part of the team. You have somewhere cool to hang out. You still are having fun. Man, listen, if these schools aren't going to give these kids cuts of the money, cuts of the pie, create an environment that makes these kids want to stick around. Hey, I know it's tough, but you're making $4 million a year. You're making $5 million a year. You only won 8 games. Make these guys feel special. I know.
Yeah, and look, and trust me, look at the landscape when it comes to the coaching salaries. I mean, Lincoln Riley, we don't know what he's getting, but I guarantee it's over $100 million.
It's
easily.
8 figures. It's 8 figures.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's 9 figures for the totality of the contract.
Yes.
Brian Kelly is apparently being rumored to LSU. How much money would you have to throw at the Notre Dame head coach to get him to leave? So
for
it's like,
LSU.
man.
Ha ha. Funny, right? Ha ha. Yeah. After we got done recording this, sources have come out to say that LSU is expected to hire Brian Kelly as our next head football coach later on Tuesday afternoon. Kelly is the winningest active coach in college football and the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. This sport is amazing. I love this. Shout out to all you rich people doing rich people things for your favorite college team. The hope, the enthusiasm that is now in Los Angeles, that is now in Baton Rouge. I'm jealous of that. It's awesome. Congrats to all you crazy lunatic people doing this sort of stuff. And, that means that Florida State will be taking on LSU week 2, and their head coach will be Brian Kelly. So that's kind of a bummer, I guess. Back to the show.
So it's like, okay, I get that. Like, these coaches leave on a whim. So you can't expect players to have any loyalty when coaches hardly ever show any loyalty. And even when they stay, it's always when they get their it's never like a coach is like, no, I'm perfectly happy here. And you know what? I don't need any extra money either. I'm good. We're fine. It's always they get their salaries bumped up. If not, they threaten to leave. So I'm the player empowerment part of it. I'm perfectly fine with. I'm just complaining about kind of what it's the new reality of the sport. Just because it's not what I grew up with. And it's always going to be hard. It seems like it'll be hard for the never-haves to ever really build something special because when they get a couple of good players, they're going to bounce, probably. Florida State, it shouldn't impact them that much negatively, right? Like a place like Florida State, a place like Kentucky basketball, I feel like they're always going to come out on a net positive when it comes to the transfer portal. So I'm not complaining because of what it's doing to Florida State. It's the reality of college football, and it's hard to know from year to year who's on what team. And when a coach leaves, he might take 9 guys with him, which really kind of, sucks for the fans.
Yeah. Speaking of, have you seen the Oklahoma fans, their reaction on social media? Ooh. I thought Florida State fans were really upset when Jimbo left. My goodness. And it's great. Guys went 55-10, I think, in 4 seasons since 17. 5 seasons?
Probably. I mean, he made the playoffs 3 times, right?
55-10, everyone's like, yeah, he's soft. Enjoy him. He was on the decline. He's regressing. Good riddance.
Yeah.
So
see what happens when he doesn't have a first round, the number 1 overall pick at quarterback.
Yeah. So we're all complicit in this.
Yeah.
We're mean to these people. They're chasing money. These kids want to get paid.
That's sour grapes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as long as the coaching carousel is like this, where Lincoln Riley literally said at his introductory press conference on Monday that he went to bed. He was first approached about USC on Saturday night after the Bedlam game, slept a couple hours, woke up, had a Zoom call, and agreed to go to USC. It's like, okay, well, that's the life. That's the life these guys have chosen now. And you're going to take all this money, which you are, way too much money, ridiculous amounts of money, with all these crazy contract extensions, with no buyouts. You're gonna agree to have that as part of your job. Well, guess what? You're also going to have to figure out a way to not get players to leave your program. Because you can't have both of them. You can't expect loyalty from the players and to always just be there and to stick with you for 3 or 4 years when you're willing to bounce on a Zoom call 2 hours after a loss to your rival.
I think they had 60 commitments, in less than 24 hours. So
yeah, but it's Oklahoma, right? Like they'll obviously take a huge bump here. Hey, I tell you what, did you see on Twitter on Monday? It doesn't look like they're quite putting out the Brent Venables fire. Still a little talk there about Venables maybe going back to Oklahoma.
I love that. Lincoln Riley, they love Bob Stoops, but they were souring on Bob Stoops until Lincoln Riley came there and fixed the offense. He fired Brent Venables. They were good riddance to get rid of Brent Venables, and now they're like, yeah, bring him back. Can't wait.
No, he didn't. They didn't fire him, right? Didn't he? He left for Clemson.
No, they let him go, man. I mean, it was like mutual separation kind of thing. It all worked out, but he wasn't chomping at the bit to leave Norman, man. They just weren't. It was a big game. Bob had lost the luster, man. Like the Sam Bradford years were in the rear view.
No, I know, but I'm talking about Venables. I don't think Venables wasn't a free agent that Dabo went and got. He was the Oklahoma DC, and he went and took him.
Well, they didn't really they didn't match it. They could have kept him. I don't know.
Oh, right. It's a lot like, well, it's not because it's a different position, but I promise you, I was in the thick of it in 2000. Florida State fans weren't in anguish when Mark Richt left. They were like, oh no, now when they realized who his replacement was, they were like, oh, what? No, you're Florida State. You could go get the best offensive mind in the country. You could go get a head coach at 30 schools and make him, and he'd run here to be your OC, where Florida State was in 2000. And instead they promoted the head coach's son. It didn't work out. But at the time, they had all these complaints. And then 2 years later, man, Mark Richt was awesome. Mark Richt was great. And I assume Oklahoma fans were the same way watching what happened to their defense after Venables left.
What's great is getting the edge when it comes to making your sports bets. That's why I check out BetQL Daily, sponsored by FanDuel. It's the must-listen show for sports bettors and sports fans alike. Bowl season's coming up, and they're providing great insight into the game action that you need to know, where the lines are moving and why. Hosts Joe Ostrowski, Joe Giglio, the Joes, and Aaron Hawksworth serve up that wagertainment, sports talk that you love, with betting insights that you need each weekday. Find out where the market is moving across all of the week's biggest sporting events. If you're not sure where to start with sports betting, you're not alone. Start with BetQL Daily, presented by FanDuel. You can listen weekdays 9 a.m. to noon Eastern on Audacity. It's a video podcast. You can actually see them looking into your soul, giving you the goods. Or you can listen to it on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. According to our Michael Langston, Corey Clark, Keonata Goodwin, which just look at his photo on his rival's profile, and you're like, sign me up. He looks like an all-pro. He'll be the next Willie Roaf. He got an in-home visit on Monday night. Apparently, Ron Dugans was over in Missouri.
Who
Kevin
is he?
Coleman.
Tell us who he is. What's his deal?
I mean, everybody knows this stuff, but yeah, we'll dive into it. But yeah, Keonata Goodwin, he's actually committed to Kentucky right now. He's from Indiana. 6'8", 305-pound, 4-star tackle. Number one, the 51st ranked prospect overall in the nation this season. He's visited Kentucky. He's visited Alabama. He's being pursued by everybody that has a great college football program. He's he's also visited Georgia Tech and Indiana. So let's use that fifth one wisely, shall we, Keonata? But good, kind of cool to hear about these in-home visits being a thing still. Kind of meant to ask, I was probably going to ask Mike Norvell about that if we still had bowl practice and prep going on, but whatever. Apparently it was a 2-for-1. Norvell and Atkins made the pitch to him. I haven't looked at his film, but again, I just look at his photo, and I'm just like, okay, 6'8", 305, come home. Apparently Kenny Dillingham went to speak to Micah Pittman, who's a receiver from Oregon, Oregon, leaving Oregon. He's from California. I don't see any stats from him this past season. Got a little bit of burn in 19 and 20 out there in Eugene as I scroll down here.
What size is he?
He is 5'11", 200.
Okay, all right. I'm looking. He might be an awesome player. I'm looking more in the 6'3" to 6'5" range. That's kind of what I'm hoping they land a couple of those bad boys.
Yeah. Pittman, hometown is Tampa, but he went to high school out there in Calabasas. In 19 as a freshman, he caught 18 passes for 227 yards and 2 scores. 2020, 8 catches for 123. Again, I don't see anything from him this past season, so who knows on that one. I'll look it up here. But then Kevin Coleman, another big fish for them. Ron Dugan's apparently made an in-home visit to him, so he's the 5-star, not 6'3", 220 pounds. But, maybe he can be your T.Y. Hilton or –
there you go.
I don't know, just insert more slender, game-breaking wide receiver. 5'11", 170. He's a 5-star, number 25 rated prospect in the nation, number 3 receiver this recruiting cycle.
He would be an instant upgrade and a difference maker. I wouldn't expect like 1,000 yards as a freshman, but he could really help out the offense. Maybe an Antonio Brown type. Okay. Maybe a better person. But that type of receiver is what you're looking for. And, yeah, I want to talk about the portal a little bit because I wrote the column on Jordan Travis that was on our site on Monday. And we talked about him a lot. But, again, I kind of want because I know Jeff Cameron thinks they need to go get a quarterback in the transfer portal. And I don't disagree. But my question to you, Aslan, who would you get? Like, who do you think – what kind of prospect – and obviously Spencer Rattler isn't coming here. You wouldn't think the kid. Number one, who would you take? Okay. And then who? Because there's some dynamics there. With a guy that started with you for 2 years and is the reason you've won any games at all as a coach. Literally, you would be winless without that kid. Well, you would have beaten UMass if I was at quarterback. So you'd have one win in 2 years if it wasn't for that kid at quarterback. So who would you be interested in? And more importantly, what kind of transfer prospect at quarterback is interested in Florida State?
Yeah, that's tough because you don't want a guy to hold your program hostage. Not that I'm saying Jordan would, but I think Jordan's development is so much mental. And I think for him, and we really didn't consider this with James Blackman a lot. It's a little bit of a different circumstance. DeAndre was here. It seemed like he probably would have to wait for a little bit, but then he gets thrust into action. I would think you would stunt Jordan's growth, I think, if you brought anybody in here that was a legitimate threat. And that's not a knock on Jordan. I just think he's admitted to us as much. It was tough dealing with not being the starting quarterback for a game, hearing people cheer for the other guy, the noise, whether it's podcasts, whether it's social media that criticize him. He hears about it, his teammates hear about it, and it's affected him. So if you were to bring somebody that's a legitimate like a Max Johnson, I think that might be a name that Jeff's thrown around a few times, who people I know that cover LSU say that he's kind of gotten a bad rap. He hasn't put up great numbers, but that offensive line hasn't really been up to sort of LSU standards. Not that he's going to be walking into a really great situation here. A little bit better than what most people think. This offensive line is not as bad as a lot of people want to proclaim it to be. But I don't know. I mean, is it worth going after a Max Johnson? What's the upside of him when you're going to stunt the growth of Jordan Travis? I understand what you're saying, but you got to go. You do have to go after somebody, man. Because
that's what I'm saying. Because look at who you have. Look at who you have if Jordan Travis gets hurt. Yeah. What do you have?
You have nothing. You have nothing, man. Sorry. Tate Rodemaker's he's a great teammate, man. He's out there. He's the guy that was out there every single day, man. These guys were in and out with whatever maladies and ailments they were dealing with, but Tate Rodemaker's out there every single day. We need to be patient with his development, but it's hard to imagine you could really invest a lot into him this coming season.
Yeah, so that's I think that's going to be one of the more fascinating parts of this. I mean, look, it's what it is now. It's 2 months of free agency, really 6 months of free agency in college football, and you don't know who's going to be available. You don't know who they're going to go after. Like, I don't know that they'd call Spencer Rattler. Because I think that kid brings some baggage with him and might not be great for a culture and things you're trying to build. Also, don't know how good he is. He's the only quarterback that Oklahoma's had the last 5 years that couldn't lead them to touchdowns. So I don't know how good he was. I think he might have been a lot overhyped. But say the Caleb Williams kid, they're the Oklahoma starter now that kind of salvaged their season when the offense was so bad. His coach leaves, and he's like, you know what? I'm not following that trader out to USC. I don't like LA, but I like a college town, maybe a little bigger than Norman. I want to go to Florida State.
Yes,
you absolutely you do. Yeah. But do you call him now if he put in it? He hasn't put his name in the portal. But do you make a play for him? Yeah, you probably do.
Channels, yes.
But I wonder what the limit is. Like because you do need a backup. You do need a backup that you can count on. But are you going to get a sophomore? because you've got A.J. Duffy coming in. That's one of these guys' recruits. One of their guys, and then you got the kid after him the next year that's already committed.
Chris Parsons.
If you're I always want to call him Chandler Parsons. Hey. Shout out to the great Gator basketball player. By the way, I think. Well, we won't even get into that. But either way, when you go, it's a long basketball story. It doesn't matter.
Thank you. Yeah,
I was saving you and the listeners. But when you think about the quarterback, so it's not going to be like a kid that's a freshman, you wouldn't think, or a sophomore, because he's going to look and see the depth chart. Okay, Rodemaker's still there. A.J. Duffy's coming in. Jordan Travis is only a junior, so he's got 2 more years. So you would think, what do you want? Do you want like a Mackenzie Milton type that's a senior with some experience that can provide backup? But would one of those players transfer their last year to come be a backup, to not be guaranteed the start to a starting spot? Like Mackenzie Milton was different because it's like, man, it was so much uncertainty about who he was, how he could play, that it was Florida State took a bigger chance on him than he took with Florida State. And it turned out they were wrong. They missed it, but it was worth the risk. But he couldn't play anymore. It just wasn't the same guy. But they took a shot. But who? And Jordan Travis would be perfectly fine. So Mackenzie Milton, of course, they're going to give him a shot. But who else out there now would you? It's just, I can't even phrase the question right. I just wonder where their minds are when it comes to quarterback play. I do think they like Jordan Travis.
Do they want a Sean McGuire?
That's what I'm asking.
Or do they want like somebody they think can dethrone
to compete
Jordan
and win the job, dethrone him? Like, if you could go get, if there was a Carson Pickett, not Carson Pickett, is that his name? Carson Pickett. Who's the kid, the quarterback at Pitt? Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Carson Pickett was the former soccer player at Florida State, the women's soccer player that only had one arm. It's actually a really cool story. But anyway, I don't know why sorry, Carson Pickett, I'm sorry. I know you don't play college football. But yeah, if you could get a player of that caliber, absolutely you would take him. But that player of that caliber isn't looking at Florida State. They're not looking to leave. So whoever's coming in as a quarterback is going to be a question mark. Maybe not as big a one as Mackenzie Milton 2 years after surgery, but I'm really interested to know who's even out there that they would give a look to, and what the pitch is, what the recruiting pitch is to try to get them on campus.
Yeah, well, that's the one position that really hasn't sort of fleshed itself out in the portal yet is quarterback. But I mean, as those names start kind of filing in, we'll get an idea of it. But yeah, the thing though is like you'll get a guy like that Jamar Gibbs kid who I guess was like top 5 in the nation in all-purpose yards.
Yeah, he was great for a bad team. Yeah,
and he's leaving Georgia Tech because I guess the publisher for the Georgia Tech website was reading between the lines. Pretty much the losing just became too much for him. But like if you're a good enough quarterback, you're probably not on a really bad team because you can control so much of your success. Like a running back, you can only really do so much. Although shout out Dalvin, kept 10 wins, getting us to New Year's 6 bowls. Love you, big guy. But yeah, you would think that most quarterbacks that are kind of carrying a team. I don't know. Maybe they look at Florida State and they think they'll be in a better situation. They're maybe winning 6-7 games wherever they're at, and if it wasn't for them, they could be better off. But there's no names that really kind of stand out at this juncture.
I'm going to throw 2 names at you as possibilities, not probabilities, but they could be in the portal in the coming months. JT Daniels at UGA.
Okay.
Jake Garcia at Miami.
Okay.
What do you do?
Oh, boy. I probably would lean towards Garcia over Daniels.
Because he's younger, right? He's got much more time to play.
That and availability. Actually, although I guess he got hurt too. But, I mean, Jordan Travis, the knock is that he might not be able to make it through an entire season for you. So why get a guy that can't figure out a way to buck up and play for the number 1 team in the nation? No offense, sorry.
Right, yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, but, and I'm not saying he's leaving. I can't remember what Stetson Bennett is. I don't know if he's a senior or not, or if he's got eligibility left, but I think he can come back. But either way, JT Daniels has lost that job. He didn't come to USC to back up a 5'11" former walk-on. He didn't come all the way out from USC. Maybe he goes back to USC. They got a coach that develops quarterbacks now. But, yeah, just those are the kind of names, those are the kind of players that you wonder about. Like, how do you – when you're in the portal looking at a QB, because you're not looking for – like last year you didn't know what Jordan Travis was. He was a complete wild card that played well for you at times but couldn't stay healthy, couldn't stay on the field. Well, man, he did play the last 7 games of the season except for the one he was sick. And even the one he got hurt, like really banged up, he came back in and gutted that out and played. So it's not like last year where you're like, anytime he gets tackled, you wonder if he's going to come out of the game. I think he displayed and showed a toughness these last 2 months that we didn't know he had. We weren't convinced he had. And I don't think the coaches knew he had it. And then that Syracuse game happened, and then things kind of took off. So you know more of what Jordan Travis is now, and he's a guy you can win with. He's a guy that's won. He was 5-3 this year as a starter. He was 5-2 in his last 7 games as a starter. And the 2 losses were at Clemson and at Florida, basically by 3 points each. And the other loss was in overtime to Notre Dame. So he's proven he can play at a level that can win games for you. So it's not but you do need a backup. I don't think you can go into next year because we're assuming Rodemaker stays, but that might be a wrong assumption. The die might have been cast there. He might see where he stands. And so you certainly can't go into next season with Jordan Travis, A.J. Duffy, and nothing.
Hey, now, Gino English, put some respect on his name, Corey.
Sorry, scholarship-wise, you're right. But, if Rodemaker stays, then at least you've got some depth. But is it quality depth?
No,
because, you didn't even put Rodemaker into the game until Mackenzie Milton basically said, you have to not play me. You have to get me off this field. He basically was begging to be out of the game with that Dansby Swanson sidearm throw. So that's when you finally put Rodemaker in the game, but that wasn't your first instinct. And here we are, year 2 of his tenure here. So he clearly isn't a guy I think is a part of their plans long term, and can't fly up the depth chart over a one-legged quarterback that can't play anymore. So what do you really have in him? And then A.J. Duffy's a true freshman. It would help a lot. Isn't Duffy supposed to come in the spring? Isn't that right?
Early enrollment, yes.
That will help a lot. You've got to develop him, but you've got to have a third guy too. And maybe it is Rodemaker just for depth purposes, but who in this day and age sticks around a program to be a third-string quarterback that's a third-year player? It's just I thought it was fascinating. When I got done with that column talking about how much I think Jordan Travis has made believers out of a lot of people, most importantly himself, and his head coach. With that said, with every quarterback, there's a question of, okay, what happens when he goes down? You do need a backup, but also more than anything, you just need some depth in that room. You need some depth, and I just wonder if they're going to hit the portal and what kind of quarterback would it be available in the portal for them, for Florida State in particular.
By the way, Mackenzie Milton, ACC Brian Piccolo Award winner. Yep. Mackenzie Milton. So
man, it would have been such a great story, right? If they could have just won the Notre Dame game. Yeah. And that would have been his moment. And then everything else happened, obviously. But still, if he'd have come off the bench in the fourth quarter to lead them to 2 scores in a win over Notre Dame, that would have been one of the coolest moments of the last 10 years in Florida State football, in college football. It just would have been, they'd have made a movie out of it, and they just would have left out the last 11 games. But they would have made a movie out of that season, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, not to belabor it, but back, I guess, kind of to the question of the tough situation that the staff is in is, I think any quarterback would look at this depth chart and be like, oh, opportunity. Not going to be scared off by A.J. Duffy. I don't think they'd be scared off by Tate Rodemaker. I do think, though, that any quarterback that, any kid that's got good sense to him would look at what Jordan Travis did, maybe go back and listen to a couple interviews on YouTube of his offensive coordinator talking about him and hear the way they talk about him and realize it's slim to none that you could come take his job. So maybe it's going to be one of those things that's just going to kind of, it's going to work itself out, just because of the common sense of it all. They'll probably find a Hornibrook-esque kind of guy if somebody's sick.
But Hornibrook was coming to compete and thought he was going to win. A Hornibrook-esque guy, let's use Alex Hornibrook, 2019 Alex Hornibrook trying to come in to 2022 Florida State. There's no chance he'd come here because he'd be like, yep, they've got their guy, and he's just going to be a junior. And that's the thing. That's what's so bizarre about this situation is there aren't guys that transfer with experience that transfer to be backups. They don't want to. You can't guarantee them the job, but they don't transfer hoping to compete. for an incumbent starter that the coaches really like. Like, what's the point of even coming if you want to play? So hopefully, I mean, honestly, the more you think about it, you're like, man, you've got to develop Rodemaker more so he's a viable option if something happens, and you've got to develop A.J. Duffy quite a bit starting in the spring. And then 3 quarterbacks is all you really need. I'm just not convinced that Rodemaker would be here, and if he's not here, what do you do? Yeah. But you got to have somebody. But that's the pickle they're in. But they have much, obviously, folks, that was just more of a curiosity of what Aslan thought. I know they have much bigger, I don't want to say problems, but
needs to address
in the portal than a backup quarterback. But I just think that the quarterback position at this program right now, because you have somebody that you think is pretty good, but he's not an NFL guy probably. He's not elite. And, if an elite quarterback was available, you'd probably go take him. But I doubt there'd be one available. So then you're left, okay, who would come to Florida State to be, we'll say you can compete with Jordan, but you're probably going to be a backup. So that's where they're at right now. But yeah, there's a lot of guys in the portal. The portal is nuts. If you're on Twitter, you've got to follow the Rivals transfer portal account. It's unbelievable. It makes your head spin. It's just every 4 minutes there's somebody else in there.
Well, and so much of it too, though, is the same kid getting retweeted because he's like, all right, I got an offer from this school. I got an offer from this school. All right, we get it.
Yeah.
He's in the portal. All right. Like, once he commits, then you can kind of start celebrating. But, yeah, it is required reading almost. You need to be dialed into that kind of stuff. The one thing, I think we mentioned it before, no one really talks about it anymore because of the portal, and you can get kids from programs that have been probably getting really good coaching. But I wonder if there's anybody out there in the junior college market. Like that kind of, like some kind of kid that just would bet on himself and be like, hey, man, I'm playing in the middle of nowhere in Kansas. I'm in some small campus in California or Mississippi. Like, yeah, I'd absolutely love the opportunity to come play at Florida State. And if a Jordan goes down and you go and you have a really good game, then maybe you make things interesting. Maybe I wonder if that's a avenue that they're exploring. But I would be absolutely shocked if we go into 2021, if we go into the 2022 season, and it's Travis, Rodemaker, and Duffy. Like, that'd be a shock.
It would be surprising, only because, like you said, I said, I would be surprised if Rodemaker's still here. But that I wouldn't be stunned. I mean, it could happen. Maybe he knows he needs to get better and he wants to work out. I don't know. Who knows? They did play him in that game at least. At least they showed a little belief in him until Jordan came back.
Everybody's trying to cash in on the next best stock, Corey. But if you want a guaranteed way to double your money, all you need to do is use the promo code WARCHANT at mybookie.ag. It's simple. Sign up at MyBookie with the promo code WARCHANT. Your first deposit immediately doubled, all the way up to $1,000. How's that for a quick turnaround on your investment? The NFL playoff race is heating up. Bowl season just around the corner. Double your firepower at mybookie.ag to get in on the action on the most important games of the season. Build your own props, create multi-game parlays. That's what I do. Sometimes it works, rarely does, but when you hit on the parlay, so fulfilling. And you can take part in a host of the MyBookie cash prize contest. This is the best time of year to both watch and bet on sports because you know who the winners are by now. You've watched so much, all the data, all the analytics, it's all there. Don't miss out. Double your first deposit. Use a promo code WARCHANT. Keep your eyes peeled for more exclusive holiday promotions coming soon at mybookie.ag, where you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
And yeah, by the way, so I got an email from a guy basically asking me what was wrong with me because he thought I was too hard on Norvell. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sorry.
What did he say about me then? Jeez, if you're
I didn't open the email.
All right, good.
If you know anything about me, guys, if you want me to read an email, in the subject header, make it something really nice. And I'll be like, oh, this is a fan. All right, we'll see about this. And then I don't read my emails nearly enough anyway, but I saw the subject header, and it was basically, why are you attacking Norvell? What's happened to you, or what's wrong with you, something like that. And I assume he's talking about yesterday's show. And I'm really, you guys know, anybody listening to this show that's been listening to this show for a year now knows I'm a big fan of the guy. I think he has a chance to be a really good coach here, and I really appreciate what he's done for the program. There's just more to prove. That's all. There's more to prove. Nothing's been proven. Nothing's set in stone that this guy is going to turn Florida State into a championship caliber team or a playoff caliber team. I think the makings are there, but there's some improvement that needs to be made, and that's for all of us. I got to get better at this. We know Aslan has to get better at this. We all have to make improvements in our lives, and he's got some improvements he's got to address and make. First things first, though, these are an enormous 2 weeks for him. Maybe the biggest 2 weeks he'll ever have at this school. I was thinking about that. I think these next 2 weeks, with the recruiting class he might have on tap, and some guys that are still out there, and the portal, and coming off a pretty nice finish to a not good season, don't you think this could be maybe the pivotal 2 weeks in his whole tenure at Florida State, depending on how it turns out?
I don't know, you guys.
Good or bad? Good or bad?
I don't know. You guys have seemed to made this into reality where he's going to at least be here till 2023. So at least he'll have 4 full seasons. So I don't really know what can happen here in the next 2 weeks.
But I'm looking about like if he's going to be here for 10 years, and that's probably all you can you might not be able to, even if he's really great. It appears maybe everybody's going to be going to the SEC because they're going to throw $30 million at guys. But if they're going to be good in a championship team, say 2024. It's this week, man. It's these 2 weeks that will set the stone for that, set the foundation for that. With the talent he can accrue. This is an enormous 2 weeks. If he lands the guys that they're in on, if he lands a few of those guys plus all the guys that they have, and then knocks it out of the park with, 9 transfers, 7 of which can start right away on your maybe 3 on the line on defensive line, man, that gives you hope. Number one, it gives you hope that they're going to be good for the foreseeable future because he's loading up with high school kids. But they can be good next year. Not great, not 10-win, but they can be good next year depending on what he does in the portal. The portal changes everything.
Why
man.
not be 10-win good, man? Come on,
they could be. I mean, they could be. That's fine, but they're not going to be 10-win good because of the high school recruits. Except for a few that are the receivers, DBs that can play early. None of the line of scrimmage guys are going to make much of an impact in 2022. We all know that. But if he lands this class, so think about I was just thinking about when Florida State back in the day when they were awesome. You would watch the third and fourth quarters of games when they were blowing everybody out, and you'd watch to see, okay, how does this Brooks kid look at safety? And then he ended up, obviously moving to linebacker. How does Danny Cannell look at quarterback? How does Thad Busby look at quarterback? This Warwick Dunn kid looks pretty good. Like all these guys, the way your program is in the right place is like thinking about in the third quarter of a 40-point win next year, you're watching three studs that you got from your high school class play well and get those reps, get those minutes, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to project a little bit, and I can project Shaheem Brown. Maybe he's a real player. Maybe he's playing alongside Marvin Jones Jr. for a couple snaps, and you start projecting what it's going to look like, and you start seeing guys that look like NFL players. That all starts this week. These 2 weeks, man. This roster has to get so much better for us to have a team a championship team. It has to get so much better, and this is the start of it. If they start losing guys, or if guys say, you know what, I'm gonna hold off and not sign until February, that's not a great sign. If he can hammer home this class, cement it off a 5-7 season, and we know that there's some guys in the portal that they're in the mix on and can get some commitments from, it bodes well for 2022, obviously. But 2023, man, and 2024, you're making some real hay. It's a huge 2 weeks for him because it's the first time he's ever been able to recruit. Right?
Yeah, I mean, at least for the high school, because I don't know how much, transfer guys are going to be affected by being able to have the face-to-face kind of stuff. I mean, those guys they're looking at depth charts, they're looking at schemes and trying to figure out a way to get to the next level. But this high school class, I think, kind of is what it is, and it's a good thing. I mean, it's going to be like a top 15-ish class, and you've got some real high-end guys.
Star power. You've got some star power there.
And if you add Kevin Coleman, you're probably vaulting inside of the top 10, I would think. So, yeah, that's a big deal. It's just tough to say right now with the portal. I think, Monday obviously was a really big day because it is that, the season is over for so many teams. It's over for, 115 or so of the teams out there in the nation. So everybody kind of starts pouring in. But I would imagine that, maybe even some of these teams that are playing in bowl games, maybe some of these guys end up wanting to leave too. So that might take us outside that 2-week window. But no, your point is valid, though. It definitely, if you're an impatient guy like me, again, you can address needs immediately, and that's through the portal. And if he can get some of these guys that are starting to matriculate in there, it's obviously a big deal. And listen, they're going to lose guys. I know everyone thinks that this roster is not all that great. Well, the guys that are great are leaving. I mean, Jermaine Johnson's gone. Kier Thomas is gone. That hurts. So they got
Brady Scott, Andrew Parchment.
That's true.
Not so much on offense. The offense, they're not losing a ton of great weapons. But, yeah, they're going to lose some guys. They got holes to fill. In these 2 weeks, though, how much do you think it impacts, like say let's just say there's another Jermaine Johnson at Georgia, and he's certainly not going to leave until that season's over, which, God willing, will be January 10th, as Kirby's hoisting up the trophy for the first time in 41 years. Georgia can be national champs.
Will you go to the game? I know you've probably spent you've allocated all your money on the Braves, but
I'm tapped out, man. I tapped out for a variety of reasons. The World Series really. I don't know that Brady has any money left. I don't know that he can go to college now.
He's going to have no Christmas presents then, at least.
No
right?
Christmas presents. He's going to have to get some sort of scholarship if he wants to go to college now. But it was worth it because the Braves won the World Series. But how much do you think it impacts like these guys, like a really good Georgia, the 13th guy on Georgia's defense that wants to go play somewhere else? If Florida State had just signed the number 7 class, doesn't that give him more belief too? Like, yeah, I'm going to go play with good players. Now, it might only be for a year or two. But I'm going to go get to play. Like, this guy really has turned it around.
Certainly won't hurt. Yeah, certainly.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. I think that matters too. And we have no idea what's going on at the University of Miami. None. For all I know, they're drawing up a lifetime extension for the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, they fired their AD 2 weeks ago. The season's been over for now 2 days, and not a peep out of there. Yeah. And he won 6 of his last 7 or 5 of the last 6 or whatever. So, in the one loss was 4th and 14. He was that close to finishing on like a 6 or 7 game win streak with a good quarterback. So, we don't know what's going on with Miami. They might be, and more importantly, neither do recruits and their families. They have no idea. In Florida, Napier's still coaching in the championship game. So, that's a week. I mean, I'm sure he's recruiting some, but he's still concentrating on Louisiana for the next week because he's got a game to coach, and he still hasn't put his staff together. So, you've got time to strike. I know you're not in a lot of battles with Florida, and I don't know how many you are with Miami, but it also helps that LSU doesn't have a coach. And there are some LSU guys you're hoping for, or guys thinking about LSU. So this could be, we look back on it, because what happens if you have a top 10 recruiting class, number 9 in the country, and then next year you go 8-4, and you show again really solid improvement. Man, great recruiting classes beget great recruiting classes. They stack on top of each other. When the 2023 kids see what you've done with the 2021 and 2022 kids, and they see the improvement, they're going to keep coming. But you got to start with the monster class. This isn't going to be 2011 monster class like Jimbo had, but it could be a darn good one, and it could be the start of something we hope is really special here.
Amen, brother. Amen to that. Don't forget, later today, Seminole Headlines. Corey, Ira, and Jeff talking Noles 1 to 3 o'clock live here on Warchant TV. That's our YouTube channel, Warchant. Look it up. You all already know. Also 93.3 FM in Tallahassee. And then ACC Big Ten Challenge. Noles taking on Purdue, Corey. What do we think about that one?
Well, not great. Raekwon Evans won't play because his brother sadly passed away last week, so he'll be at the funeral, I think, in Montana.
Yeah.
Tenor and Gom won't play. He got hurt. Leonard announced that he got hurt on Monday. Well, we knew he got hurt in the Boston game, and they're hoping to get him back for the majority of the ACC season. And then Naheem McLeod, who I don't know how much he was going to play anyway, is out too. So they're down 2 starters. Not great starters, but still starters. That hurts their depth. Oh, and Purdue's number 2 in the country.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Purdue's, I don't think they played a ton of great teams, but they're at home. They're number 2 in the country, and they got some real players. So I think Florida State's an 11-point underdog, which I wonder the last time they were an 11-point underdog. I bet it was like one of those great Duke teams on the road or something back 4 or 5 years ago. So I don't expect a win, not saying it can't happen, but it should be a really good experience for them either way. Like Florida was, really. I mean, you got a young team. They haven't played together much. Going into that environment against that kind of team, where they're ranked higher than I think they've ever been. Like, this might be their highest ranking, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years, who knows? I don't follow Purdue basketball that closely, but I know they don't win a lot of championships. So going into that building with those fans, and they're very, very passionate there, just that experience alone should help them. And Leonard always talked about that Indiana game a few years ago for the team that could have competed for the national championship if COVID hadn't struck down the tournament. He always said that game they played at Indiana in this tournament, in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, was key to their development because it showed them what they have to bring on the road, the kind of energy they have to bring, the kind of poise they have to play with on the road, because it can get out of hand. And so I think no matter what, as long as they compete, play hard, I don't expect them to win. They can. Wouldn't be out of the realm. There have been bigger upsets in history. But it should be a good experience for them either way. But yeah, it's a little bit of bad luck. I don't think when they're putting together the ACC Big Ten Challenge matchups that they might have thought Purdue was going to be number 2 in the country, but yet here they are.
Oh man.
And then they start ACC play. They have their first ACC game on Saturday at home against Syracuse.
Look at that. It's happening. It's here.
Kind of out of nowhere. Then it goes back to non-conference for a while. But Saturday, because they've gone to this 20-game schedule now, you have to play some conference games early in December. So they get Syracuse at home on Saturday.
My goodness. By the way, the show's ending. Do you realize Nebraska lost to Iowa on Saturday? Got outscored 19-0 in the fourth quarter.
The football game?
Yeah.
Yeah, are we on the air? Yeah.
Yeah, we're still on there. I can't believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another guy. Like, I think, and I know I wrote a column about how FSU's not going to be Nebraska, and I heard from a lot of Nebraska fans about that. The emails stopped coming up. The emails stopped showing up when Nebraska kept losing and losing and losing. But like, look at that guy. Like, that guy's a good coach, I think. Don't you think? UCF went to from winless.
They're really stuck in that lose close gear. That's
what I'm saying. Yeah, that they always talk about.
Yeah,
but he took a winless team to an undefeated team in like 3 years or 2 years. Yeah. In a conference, like they weren't playing high school teams. It was remarkable. And then he goes back to his alma mater where he wants to win more than anything, and he's in year 4, and they go 3-9, I think.
Yeah.
But 8 of their 9 losses were by in one possession games. So, like, I remember Nebraska before Scott Frost got there, even a couple of years where he has there, where they would lose by 40 points and 60. Well, maybe not 60, but they got blown out a lot.
Yeah, Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, I think, hung like 60 on them.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, at least they were in the game. But you know what I mean? Like they might be pretty good and just got really unlucky. Or just not unlucky, but just need a few more difference makers. Like the guts, the bones of that program might not be awful either. And I think that guy can coach. And what would be the point of Nebraska firing him? To go get what? Yeah. Like, just trust that guy knows what he's doing, and maybe he can get you back to 8 or 9 wins, because they weren't that far off. Just like Norvell wasn't far off from 8 or 9 wins. He was also close to 2 wins. That's what happens when you're kind of mediocre and you play a lot of close games. Sometimes you get the dice rolls your way, sometimes it doesn't, but you got to keep stacking the rosters, Aslan. I think that's the message for today for Corey Clark. You got to keep stacking the roster. You got to fill this roster up with talent. Or say you're in a 20-20 game and it's 2 minutes left. You can throw an out to, say, a kid named Travis Hunter. I don't know. I'm just picking out names out of a hat. I'm kind of putting names together. You throw a 5-yard out to that kid, like you like to do with your receivers now, where sometimes you get 3 yards. Or you usually do it with your running backs and you just block for them. But say you throw a little stop to Travis Hunter right near the line of scrimmage. He maybe makes a couple guys miss and goes 80 yards for a touchdown. All of a sudden, you look like a great coach.
Yeah.
It helps to have those guys. So, Mike, I know you're listening. Kenny, all you guys, Woodson, I know you guys listen to this. They probably have a group text just about this show. Go ahead and finish the deal here. Finish. You talk all the time about finishing. You do all the off-season stuff. You want to be strong in the fourth quarter. You want to finish when it matters. That's why you lift all them weights. Buddy, this is the time. Finish. You got 2 weeks, right? We got, 15 days away from signing day? Is that right?
No.
Close to it, right?
Yeah, it's December 15th, I think. So.
Yeah, so a little more than 2 weeks. You got to finish the drill, man. You got to finish the drill and bring some real talent to this program, and then we'll all enjoy watching Florida State football for a long, long time.
Jaden Hazelwood from Oklahoma has put his name in the transfer portal. Florida State was involved with him when Willie was here. He's
Let's
a Georgia.
go.
He's a Georgia guy. I wonder
Where's he from?
He's from Georgia. He's from Georgia.
I
Somewhere
heard that.
Atlanta area, I think.
Oh, I mean, I heard you say Georgia. I didn't know if you knew like a high school or anything.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm not that. Come on, I'm not.
But he's a Georgia kid. But Florida State was in on him.
Yeah, man.
And he's in the portal.
Yeah, we talked about the 5-star challenge, Michael Langston and I, back when Willie was around these parts. So he went to Cedar Grove. You know Cedar Grove, right?
Yeah. I mean, not really. But I have heard of it, but I'm not sure what part of the state it's in. I think it's in the Atlanta area.
Yeah. Real quick trivia question, Corey. As of the recording of this right now, there's only 5 Power 5 schools that have not had a scholarship player enter the portal since the season started. 5. Can you name 2? No. Can you name 1?
I would say Georgia is one.
Boom.
Oh, there you go.
Corey Clark.
There you
Oklahoma
go.
State, Texas Tech, NC State, Wake Forest.
JT Daniels is waiting to announce his intentions right after the championship game. He's coming to Tallahassee. Yeah, man, it's a crazy world we live in, right? Like, I assume that guy might follow Lincoln Riley to Southern California after entering his name in the transfer portal. But either way, there's a lot of Oklahoma guys that might be departing. Like, that's the thing. Like, what would have happened to the roster if this was a thing in 2017, like a real thing? Would they have all left? Like, would all of those guys left because Jimbo had left? You think Marvin leaves? You think Cam Akers leaves?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Also, first-year head coach Brian Harsin, who took Alabama to double overtime in his first Iron Bowl, finished the season 6-6, and has gone ahead and fired his offensive coordinator. So
get out of here.
There is that, everybody. Anywho, that's our show for the day. He's Corey Mazon. Stay connected to warchant.com. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.